think you've just helped me out as a DM. Like, I think you've changed a huge perspective that I have when it comes to homebrewing and developing a world. I also think you just ruined the next 3 months of my life because now I'm going to have to get into deep lore about characters and shit. So thanks for that. Man.
You know, when you look through a history book, there are going to be names that stand out. You got to make those names that stand out in your history.
Yep. You fuck. Welcome to System Exploration by Nope, that's the wrong fucking intro. Welcome to Take the Damage podcast by Unfortunate Ones. I'm Sov.
And I'm Greythorn.
And today, I'm not sure how this is going to go. We're going to get a little insider nerdy. As we have just played through in our System Exploration, the Midland Caravan mini campaign as DM'd by you, Grey. Also to note that we don't have a Nix with us today, so it's just going to be a one-on-one conversation. But I kind of wanted to just sit down and nerd out about your world a little bit. Ask you, where things came from, how you came up with them, the timeline of the creation of the world, all of that. Yada, yada, blah, blah.
Another one of my players being an absolute fucking nerd about my shit.
I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but I enjoy... I enjoy when players ask me questions about my world because it I don't know.
It feels validating, right?
Yeah.
It's something you've worked on. Somebody likes it.
Yeah. And I certainly did enjoy it. So, and I know Nix did as well. I know he wanted to be a part of this recording, but
he's probably busy drinking.
Is that what Nix does?
St. Patrick's Day.
Is it?
Yeah. Or at least we celebrated it today at work, so.
I mean,
when it's Cinco de Mayo or St. Patrick's Day, they're handing out alcohol at my work. I'm just saying.
It's true. Your world. Before we get into it at all, is there any caveats you want to give of, like, one, anybody you want to specifically tell not to listen to this recording, as we might be getting into the details of things, or two?
No. If people ask me about things, I'll just tell them anyway. I'm the kind of person who I don't care about spoilers, and in the same vein, I don't care about spoiling.
Yeah, I've
mostly
changed I've changed so much on meta information about my games in terms of like, especially in terms of like player characters, where it's just like, just tell the other player characters what you're doing. If they're good players, they're not going to meta anyways, but understanding other people's characters helps a lot.
It depends. It depends. It's like, I feel like if it's going to be very important very soon, then I'll just say, there's stuff happening. There's things. All right, don't worry about it.
Well, I more meant like
so that comes from this and this and that and this and this and that.
I meant more like players or even NPCs' intentions, depending on the situation, obviously. Like, it's not something that I necessarily push for my players to request, but sometimes I will above table just be like, oh yeah, this guy seems like, a hardworking guy, honest laborer, just trying to get by in the world or whatever. Because I could like almost feel that my players are about to make this one NPC that is absolutely purposeless the whole campaign. And I'm like, no. He's just some guy.
Well...
Yeah. It's to get over those moments from Lord's Fall. Well, and then we have a whole fucking campaign about it.
Some guy said one thing wrong, and we got to spend the next 2 hours figuring it out.
Yeah.
Or the next 2 years.
Yeah. It's but also just like for the sake of player cohesion, I do that a lot. Like one thing I especially do is turn to quiet players. I think I've done this with you before and been like, what is Bot and Bill thinking in this moment? Like, all of the people under him are fucking up in all these various ways. What's going through Bot and Bill's mind right now? You know what I mean? And then you just get to give this meta explanation of inner monologue, and I think it helps the table. Because if anybody truly cares what Bot and Bill thinks, they might be like, oh shit, Bot and Bill doesn't like this. And yes, they're acting off meta information, but it's meta information that they might have otherwise been able to read off of your face if they were actually in this world.
Yeah. I mean, when you did that, I know you did that a few times in our G&G campaign, but it wasn't necessarily necessary because I, as Bot and Bill, while I did allow, people to do their thing, I was still playing that leader role. I was still just kind of like
absolutely
the old man in the corner until, a stern talking to needed to happen.
Yeah. We gave homebrew mechanics to an NPC of their jaw clicking after you had them beaten for acting inappropriately. Anytime Bot and Bill got upset, their jaw started clicking. So good. Anyways, yeah, fair enough. So you don't mind telling people about your worlds?
No, if somebody asks, I'll tell them, unless it's like very pertinent to the campaign right now. But there's none of that happening, so.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. Well, then let's get into it. If you want to just give me like the name and overview of your world, or to whatever depth that you want to talk about it, as if you were introducing it to a new party.
So I figure you want to know mostly about Lushanka, correct? Because that's where you were and that's what you played.
I don't really know what Lushanka is, so I know we were in this green area under the steps where we got our job. Oh, sorry. By the way, I should mention, this is going to be a little bit of a strange display for for Take the Damage, because somewhere on screen, maybe the whole screen, I don't know yet. I'm not editing at the moment. I'm going to put up the map while we talk about it, because, why not? And I believe your map is also uploaded on our website if anybody wants to follow along on a different screen or Zoom or whatever.
The first publish of the fish map.
Yeah, the fish map, the fish version, which is not the version we're currently looking at, but it's close enough. Where is Lushanka on this map?
Lushanka is that map. So,
Lushanka is this world.
Yes, so that's what they call the continent. They call the continent Lushanka Terra.
Okay.
The world itself is named Terra. It's named Terra after the god who came here like 10,000-ish years ago and fast forwarded like the development of the human species so that they would exist.
Okay.
And then
is that your lore, or is
stuff,
that driven from someone else?
It's my lore.
Okay.
It's
mine. Curious.
It's like I don't know where to go with this. So Terra comes to this planet. She decides she's gonna live here because she is illegally in the lesser realms. Mm-hmm. And she links herself to the planet so she can't be found by the Watchers, who are sort of like the police of the lesser realms. They're supposed to make sure that no one's here illegally at this point in time because there's a war going on in the realm of the gods. So Terra finds this planet. She links herself to it. She can't be found. So she gets lonely. She starts to accelerate the development of human life on this planet, which is supposed to develop naturally. And eventually, they go from cavemen to like Roman 500 AD era. A bunch of stuff happens. Some more gods show up. More stuff happens. The character from which I get my name, the nameless Greythorn, does her thing. More stuff happens. She goes away. One of the other gods go away. Then I haven't really fleshed out this part, but there's like a massive catastrophe that takes place on the planet.
Okay. Is that where the Curse Lands come from? Or is that
not
later?
yet? That's later. So I also linked you the other map, Terra V2 mainland.
Mm-hmm.
That takes place mostly on there. All this stuff. The catastrophe happens, and Terra, while battling with Mara, which is a a god created solely from the will of another god who was imprisoned in the moon named Mara.
Okay.
She creates Lushanka, and she does it by literally pulling the moon Mara, the earthen red moon, down to Terra, shattering it, and creating the continent of Lushanka, and then taking the remnants and putting it back up there while imprisoning Mara in the moon again, while simultaneously freeing the god that she didn't know existed that was already in the moon, and which is where the third moon comes from, which we haven't really talked about, so it doesn't really matter much.
Yeah, there are 3 moons in this world, right?
3 moons. You got Lumina, Mara, and Lunara. Lunara? Yeah. So you have the pearlescent white moon of Lunara, you have the earthen red moon of Mara, and then you have the sparkling dwarf moon of Lumina, which doesn't have too much importance until later on to the lore of this. So Mara, who was I guess I call her crafted god, was the will of a folk hero from the old world. Her, after she like imprisoned herself at the bottom of a lake and became like the folk goddess of the people there, kind of like you've played Skyrim, right? You know Talos. He was the folk god of the Nords that the elves don't recognize.
Right.
Similar to that, she became a god in her slumber, and her emotions and memory kind of just end up becoming dangerous to the world. So Terra, she uses Mara as like a heat sink for those. And then the goddess that was trapped in that moon, who was like hidden there long time ago by her family in the realm of the gods to avoid the war, she kind of coalesced them into an actual person through her dreams. And then eventually she became too powerful and she broke free of the moon and she started doing bad shit. So then Lushanka was made by using remnants or pieces of the moon and the earth of the planet itself. And it was named Lushanka, which I forget what Lushanka meant. Because when I make up words, we were talking about this before.
Right before the recording where I lost the meaning of my world.
Yeah. What I do with certain words is I take a couple languages and then I kind of just mishmash the word for them together. So for the language of the architects, which is the Seiren, the goddess, I mishmash Latin and Sanskrit together. And I get the new word. And I think Lushanka,
you seem to have a lot of fascination with like the Middle East and Arabic languages and whatnot.
I find them aesthetically interesting.
Yeah, I get that.
If that makes any sense.
No, absolutely.
So I think it's something like Gift or Guardian or something like that. So that's this little continent here. You got the Lost Lands off to the east. You got the Hive Lands, those little islands all around it. All that is considered the continent of Lushanka Terra. And where do I go from here?
Okay. Well, that brings us to the land. So now we have Lushanka, the land itself. Well, I mean, first of all, I would like to know, this is not the world that you typically play in, right?
No. The world I typically play in is the one that, the Terra V2 map that I linked. That's mostly like 1,000-ish years previous to the creation of Lushanka.
Oh. So it is the same world that you play in, but
it's the same world. It's not the
through
same
extremely different eras.
Area, yeah. It's a different era.
Okay, interesting. I was not aware of that. Because you told me you had 2 world maps. Or like
Yeah.
2 worlds that you typically play in. I didn't realize it was the same thing, different time.
2 settings. 2
Yeah.
settings on the same world.
Yeah. Okay. Same continent, no? Like, well, technically,
No.
one is vastly
It's a
changed,
different
right?
continent.
It's a different continent. Okay.
Yeah, Lushanka is opposite end of old Terra.
Okay. Okay, understood. But so the other one that you'd more typically play in is relatively, in a funny way, newer to you, even though it's the one you more typically play in. Whereas this is the one that you've been making since you were like a teenager, right?
Yes, and funnily enough, I call
Lushanka.
the new one Old Terra, and I called the old one New Terra.
Yes. Very, very backwards, but very cool. Okay. So then I won't ask you questions about how long you've been working on it. We've established that since you were a teenager, which does make like your inspiration for some things very difficult. I did say there was you seem to have a fascination with like Arabic language and culture and whatnot. Where did that well, first of all, has that always been a part of this world, or is that something that developed later after you started developing the world? Like, did the story of the world start first, or did you immediately have the idea of like, I want a very Arabic inspired world?
So the story for Lushanka began mostly character driven. So like with Old Terra, what happened was I was playing Mabinogi a ton, and my avatar, who's my exact character in Mabinogi, I'm like, when I played MMOs back then, I would always think of like, this character would do this character would do that, as if it was actually role playing. And sometimes I would actually role play with friends in the game in silly ways.
Yeah, not uncommon though.
So Lushanka was wholly character driven. Like, I didn't make the world itself. I just made characters, and I thought, what would this character be doing? Where are they? What's their life like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I didn't really have that the Arabic like inspired places of like Asherma and Anamaska yet. That didn't come until I was maybe in my 20s, early 20s.
Okay.
Because it used to be, and I guess it used to be that there wasn't much beyond just where those characters existed. Like one character, the main character, my first main character would, traveled out that far and, dealt with like, the medieval people and, the Midlanders and all that stuff, and then ended up back home. But one of two of my biggest inspirations, and I guess you could throw a third one in there, were Stargate SG-1, Star Ocean 3, and Inuyasha. Funnily enough.
Okay.
I was a lot more weeb back then, and I've kind of pulled.
I fucking remember,
back
man.
A bit. I pulled back a bit and replaced the weeb with hentai.
Yeah, well, as you should, as everybody should.
Yeah.
Eventually, you get
course.
bored of looking at these anime characters, and you just want to see them doing other things.
So, Stargate, they deal with a lot of like old cultures. A lot of them, there's a lot that circle around like Middle Eastern, Egyptian, Mesopotamian, Babylonian, all that stuff. And I really liked the aesthetics of like the Jaffa, because they had that like, I don't know what to describe it as, like sci-fi medieval warriors, I guess. And
it's so funny that you look at that as like I think it's like, for me, think of like Jafar and whatnot from like, yeah, like that. It's funny that you look at that and see like futuristic warrior, and for me, that feels very old world.
Huh. Well, I mean, they're walking around. They got their spaceships and their laser staffs. Come on.
No, I just meant like the clothing.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And then Star Ocean, what that game deals with most of the time is you're either a person on a planet that's kind of medieval, and then a spaceship crashes on your planet, and you like meet these people, and they're doing stuff, and like you follow them around, and you do stuff with them, and you fight the evil together. I think Star Ocean 3, which was, in my opinion, the best to this date. You play as a guy on a futuristic planet. He is from Earth, but he's off on vacation. You know, like the Star Trek equivalent of Ryza. And then the planet gets attacked, and he crash lands on an agrarian society planet, and so he has to figure things out from there. And I really like the idea of these various like dark ages to medieval cultures. So I do. So you see a lot of Arabic stuff here, but it's
also where
Terra,
we were, to be fair.
Yeah. But it's also the bulk of what I've actually worked with is kind of centered around the Barrens and the Midlands and the Forbidden Lands and the Cursed Lands. I haven't really done a lot with...
It's going to be my favorite part is as soon as we get out of that, part of the conversation, it's going to be me just being like, hey, what's going on over here? Hey, what's going on over there? Because my expectations is that it's going to be the same as my worlds where like, yeah, I don't know why I put an island over there, but I gave it a name. Anyways, so I don't know what's going on over there. I've never played over there. Because I also kind of develop my worlds a lot through play. At like general concepts swimming in the back of my mind, I could probably tell you something that's going on over there, but
you never really flesh it out till you're there, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I can't wait to ask you questions about this world.
Yes, but Ashirma, that is kind of, I guess Ashirma right now, Ashirma and the Midlands are kind of like my baby right now. I'm trying to nurture them and grow them into something. The Luntavam Coalition region and the Triumvirate, they're kind of, I haven't done a lot with them at all. So, but like in my old Terra setting, a lot of it is like 500 AD Roman-esque or Visigoths.
Yeah, you just did like Legionnaires and
like
shit
that
in your last campaign, right?
Yeah, there was the Legionnaire campaign where my players found out that they were rabbits who thought they were people.
As an important campaign to run, of course.
Oh yeah.
That's funny. Okay. How much did you... Okay, so I have a question. Just it's going to make myself sound self-important. But it's more just because this helps me develop things a lot as well. Is like when I'm playing through things. So you have the Galatian Waste. How much do you have developed of the Galatian Waste? How much do you know about it?
I don't have too much developed. It is like the seat of magic in the world still. And it's kind of the, I'm trying to find the silly movie person term. The MacGuffin region, I guess. I'm not sure. So I got the inspiration for Galatia from Star Ocean 3 because the main character and one of his friends, when they crashed. Did they crash land on the second planet? They land on a second planet that's like medieval, like 500 to 700 AD era. And they have a ship, right? And people are like, wow, we really want your technology. Where did you get this ship from? It's like, oh, we're from this place. Yeah, that place. Is that what she still told us to say people were from? Yeah, that we're definitely from that place. Mm-hmm. Nobody really knows much about it. Totally. And so that kind of became in my world Galatia. It's like, oh, it's that place that's over there. It's kind of mysterious, and everybody knows that they have like fancy shit and magic, but nobody really goes there because they're kind of closed off to the world. So that's kind of that. So like
Okay.
one of my main characters when he's out around in the Midlands or Asherma or rarely the Luntavam region, because he's a beastman, or I guess where he's from, a metahuman. He's like, oh, my master is I'm just out here finding things for a master up in Galatia. And then that kind of gives people pause. Like, okay, I don't really want to kill this beastman and piss off a Galatian.
Hmm. You had mentioned when we were creating my character that the Galatians had took umbrage with the hivelands and the bugs in the hivelands.
Yes.
So my self-important question is, because I know this is how I operate a lot of the times, is like you allowed me to kind of like not create lore, because I was only talking about myself and my people or whatever, where my character has exited the Galatian waste, entered into the land to seek knowledge that might help in the confrontation with the Hivelands, but not necessarily like I'm going to find the key or find the answer. It's more like a lifelong gathering of information of anything that might be useful. And my curiosity is, in your mind, I'm sure you haven't written anything, if you even had intentions of it, but in your mind, how much has that changed the Galatian waste? Just out of curiosity. Like, is that something that you can see? Is that some stupid bullshit that I made up, which it is? Or is that something that you've kind of thought about, like, oh, that would be interesting if the Galatians did that?
It's kind of already a thing that the Galatians do, because the Galatians, with their all their wisdom and their magic, they kind of see themselves as the caretakers of Lushanka, and they're sort of one of the pivots that keep the world in balance. So, the Triumvirate wants to invade the Luntavam coalition and take over its lands and stuff. And the only thing keeping the Triumvirate from doing that are the Golden Hair, the Steppe tribes, and then the Galatians. And then the Galatians are also trying to keep the bugs from incurring any further through the Strife lands. Is it the Strife lands?
Strife lands aren't on the map.
The Cavian Strife lands. So right there above you.
Oh, it is. Oh, sorry, it's in the north. I was looking elsewhere. I thought they were from elsewhere. My bad.
So the bugs have like a foothold on the western end of the Strife lands. And so the Galatians are the only thing keeping them from pushing further. But at the same time, the Galatians know that they can't just stop the bugs, because if the Strife landers organize, they could be a force that throws the power balance off in the world.
Okay. So I accidentally stumbled upon things that were already happening.
Yes.
Okay. I'm mostly just curious because I know, like, I have that sometimes where, I mean, most often it's when I'm improving things that I'm like, someone might ask me about the Galatian waste, and then I would just, as the DM, improv things about the Galatian waste, and then later I'll go back to my notes and actually write it in some level of depth. But sometimes it's my players that do it. Sometimes my players say something about where they're from or establish something. I had in what is the north of my land, which is, I'm just going to send you a map. I don't know if we're going to post it in the actual oh god, it's way too big. All right, I don't want to deal with this right now. In the north in my land, it's like predominantly, so it's like a northern mountain range. It's like very snowy peaks, mountain tundra. You know what I mean? And most of the occupied land is actually the foothills and the mountains, as it is Goliath and Dwarven land predominantly. My worlds tend to be very diverse, mostly because I play with a vast amount of people, and I want them to have the freedom of playing whatever character they want. So I generally keep it relatively diverse, but predominantly something because it adds culture and interest. And one of the players wanted to make a new character in that region, which the culture of that region definitely heavily is inspired by like Nordic tribal stuff. And because it was kind of tribal, they wanted to establish beast related religions to go alongside like, D&D totem warriors, and I forget what other ones. I know there's the barbarian totem, and then there's, I think, a sorcerer totem, whatever. Anyways, it helped develop like low level religions in my world, and I hadn't on my own thought of that, but as soon as they wanted a god, I was like, oh, what if it's actually like a what's the word for that where there's many gods? My brain's off right now.
Pantheon?
Yeah. And I was like, what if it's like a pantheon of various beasts that are basically like almost like Native American, where like, the fox is cunning or whatever. Different beast related low level gods that the people in the north might pray to. But I got that from a passing phrase from a player that I, developed into a greater thing. So I was curious how much of your world has that influence in it.
Like influence from players, like offhanded remarks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's not a lot in Lushanka. Just because
you haven't played much in Lushanka, right?
2 games in Lushanka, yeah. There is a little more in Old Terra, not necessarily religious, but more like peoples. So like one of the sort of big important NPCs who ends up moving and doing a lot of stuff was made entirely by one of my players in our first game, and it's like it was part of his backstory. She's his master, and she's just kind of a crazy drunk person who makes magical items that
I think I remember you telling me about
their
her.
Worth. Yeah. And she's become a staple of my world.
I love it.
I've expanded her backstory, hundreds of years and stuff, just because how much I enjoy the chaoticness of her.
That's funny. So you were saying earlier that you had characters that like before you had a world, before you had influences, like your appreciation for like Arabic influences. My words, not yours. You had like characters, or at least a character. Is that part of like how you get started writing a world? Is driven by like key players and characters in the world, and then you kind of, as if they were in their own little D&D campaign, as you continue their story, their narrative in your mind, develop the world around them?
That's how it started for like my first, I want to say, for Lushanka, and for I forget the name of the country that's on the other planet of Gaia. I would start with a character. I'm like, oh yeah, this character. I like, they do this. They look like this. They do this thing. This is what's special about them. What do they do? This is what they do. And I kind of just develop the world around them as their little story plays out in my head. But with Old Terra, it was, I want a world for this character to exist in. This is what this character is like. Now, what is the rest of this world like? So,
in ways that would like complement the character or oppose the character.
Yeah. So like, not necessarily, because a lot of it developed without Greythorn in mind, right? So like the name is Greythorn. I gave her the story, and then I'm like, this is too little. There's a lot of stuff around her, but what about the rest of the world? And then I made an entire world. I tried to, add in fantasy creatures and not add in all of the fantasy creatures that people are used to seeing. And like,
Yeah.
I tried to make, here's a human settlement. Here's a human settlement. Here's a human settlement. What's special about these ones? And it used to be that I would just build the world around characters, and the world developed as that character went and did their thing. And then once Old Terra hit, it was I built a storyline for a character, and then I built a world to exist with and without that character.
Are these characters always like deity level or god level, or are some of them like I don't know the character of Greythorn, so are some of them like really grounded? They're just a guy in the world type thing.
Because a lot of the characters that I created were back in my, teenage weeb days, shonen anime and all that shit. A lot of them are kind of godlike, although I've
powerful
strayed away from them in the recent years. So like Greythorn, the nameless Greythorn, I think her mother's an elf who is the daughter of the reincarnation of Calmaril, the mother of all elves, who was reborn to two of her firstborn children. If that makes any sense. And then her father is really fucking pissed off lycanthrope. And all of that godliness and all of that werewolfness does nothing but fuck her at multiple points in her life. And so like that's her little like tie to deityness, but she is a lot more grounded, because when I made her, I'm like, yeah, she has to be super powerful and she always wins. I'm like, you know what? You're gonna get fucked up in that fight, and you're gonna regret it for the rest of your life, and you're gonna suffer a lot.
Actually,
but not all my characters are like that. Like there are a lot of main characters now in Old Terra who are just kind of people, and they're trying to do their best to not just be average, ordinary people.
And these are people whose storylines that you follow when trying to develop your world.
Yes, because when I make a character, I want them to not just be, just some random person, right? Eventually, they're going to do great things, even though it's going to take them a while to do it.
Sure. That's really cool, dude. It makes sense because, like, again, if you like look back at history, and in our history, everybody is just a fucking person, but people did grand things, not necessarily good things, but grand things, and genuinely did develop the world around them. Genghis Khan, fucking Alexander the Great. I think it's really cool, the idea of following characters to develop the story, because I do things at a much bigger scale. Like, generally, I think of things as like lands and governments, and at least when I'm world building, not when I'm. I think on that scale when I'm world building, and then when I'm playing, like literally the corner shop NPC becomes important for no reason in my campaigns because they're super low magic and and whatnot. So like, but like when I'm world building, like I typically don't think of anybody's names. Like I could look through my original notes for my world that I want to talk to you about at some point, and have you and Nyx play in at some point, and like none of my notes have any person's name in them at all. I have things like the land itself has 3 different names because there were 3 different well-established kingdoms or otherwise cultures. I have, the names of the different regions. I have notes on the various different cultures. I have notes of like world events, wars that had happened, timelines when things developed. I have air quotes forgotten lore. which I really want to talk to you guys someday about. I know we've mentioned it off mic before, but I finally have a player base playing within the swamplands of my world, and I'm so excited. But they hate it so much. They are not into like horror, and they're not into like otherworldly shit. The party has kind of like whittled 2 players that really want that low level grounded campaign. So like I can only spend we're taking a vacation in this hellish landscape, but it's nice for me. I'm enjoying the hell out of it, of creating this absolutely horrible, horrible place. But that's like forgotten lore. Like people don't know about it. So people call it the Swamplands. It has an older name, which is Morlethil. I put on the map, because it would be known to the world, there is a capital. But even though there are societies within it, the capital is entirely abandoned and taken over by this swamp. So there's like forgotten lore in my land and shit like that. So I'm thinking like world events, governments, big movements, things like that. When I develop worlds, I don't ever really think about it from like a character's perspective in the world building stage. That's all I think about when it comes to actual play. But in the world building stage, I think so much larger and exclusively large. And what's funny is, me and you talked about earlier in the conversation, that I don't really fully develop a place or canonize a place even until I get to play there. And that's where development really starts happening. And that's because there's fucking characters there. I should just be doing that in my writing.
Yeah. I do things like that too. I'll make, oh, this place exists and this is the government, this is all they do. And then after a while I'll be like, but who helped move that into fruition, right?
How did it get there?
How did the Rose of Aldia Coalition and Old Terra, how did they start? Okay, well, you have Maximilian Greyfang. He sailed from the old Rose, landed onto this continent, and he just started going around doing druid things, and the clans formed around him, and he fought the other clans for land, and eventually the war with the East broke out, and he's like, hey, we all got to unite. We got to unite the clans. And then, that's how things go.
I think you just helped me out as a DM. Like, I think you've changed a huge perspective that I have when it comes to homebrewing and developing a world. I also think you just ruined the next 3 months of my life, because now I'm going to have to get into deep lore about characters and shit. So thanks for that. Man.
When you look through a history book, there are going to be names that stand out. You got to make those names that stand out in your history.
Yep. You fuck. I mean, I do. I just do it in improv. So like my characters have gone to libraries and learned about lore, and I've given them like, in the war that had happened to where the elves kind of took over the nation, the prominent Goliath figures who otherwise stood against the overwhelming forces of the elves, and like I gave them all names, and I gave them all individual very interesting little tidbit stories and whatnot in improv. But I don't have any of those, in my notes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I have pages of stuff. Like I have written this stuff out for Old Terra ages ago, and there are just names like this person did this thing, and these people are the people over here who are big and bad, and you got the government here, you got the king of Velador and the voice of Aun, and the voice is like the king's enforcer, religious enforcer.
I have a different world that has that. Like I have a different world that has that a little bit, or actually I should say 2 different worlds or nations, whatever you want to say, continents. One of them is kind of a standout. So like each region of the map holds their own. They're all under the same queendom, but they hold their own government. So like when they had war, the way that they were able to move into peace times is by accepting the law of the queen, but then, well, at the time king, but they were all allowed to retain their own governance. and then the capital city of each region shares a name with the region. So, like, for example, one of them is called High Spire, and that is the region. And then there's High Spire City. And that's only not true of one region, which is called Grimhold. That is the name of the region. Grimshold, apostrophe S, is the name of the capital city because Grim was a person. In the beginning of the foundation of the nation, there were scattered orcish tribes, and Grim basically brought all of the tribes together, and that's what established that region of the map. In that whole world, though, beyond the queen's name, who I forget because I never interact with the queen in any of my campaigns, and Grim, there are no other names in my world. And then in another world I have but seldom play in, I do have a couple of names, but only because they're either the city is named after the person, and I have like a couple of lines of information about that person, or there are like monuments to someone, and those monuments obviously are a named person in my notes. But there's only a couple lines about them, and in my mind I'm like, oh, well, I'll see when the party gets to any of these things, I'll see what bullshit I develop. So they got like a couple sentences each. All right.
I kind of did that a little bit for Old Terra, just a little bit. But then I just went, hard in the paint and started developing shit like crazy.
Hard in the paint. I develop a lot of stuff. I just never thought about doing it through characters' perspective. All right.
Oh, it's so much fun. I've written 2 short stories based on characters' perspectives that I really wish I could continue, but I have mad writer's block.
Yeah. Well, play a D&D campaign around them. That'll break your writer's block a little bit.
Hey, you and Nix played a D&D campaign, receiving orders for one of them, 2 of them actually.
Oh, sick! I hope we helped. So, what are some of the stories that you have written that take place in? Sorry, the name of your world. Remind me.
Lushanka Terra.
Lushanka Terra,
the one that you've played in.
Correct.
Technically, you've played in
what
both
are some
of
of
them,
the stories?
but our most recent campaign.
Like, obviously, you're not going to tell the whole tale here, but what are some of the characters and stories that have helped you develop this world?
So, my original character is, I can't name his name because you can just Google search him and find my real identity.
Okay.
But I since changed his name, so I guess I can say it. I think.
What a worthless statement, then.
Well, his original name ended up being like my personal identifier on the internet for a long time.
Okay.
Let's see. Just do a. Okay, yeah, the new one's fine. So my original character, I'll just call him TK. He was like the first thing I ever made after watching too much shonen anime, right? It's supposed to be like average kid has a small harem that he doesn't care for, and he goes and does a thing. And I rewrote that a bit. So his story starts on Earth, because spoiler alert, the Forbidden Lands, that's an Earth colony.
Where are the Forbidden Lands on the map?
Like that little turtle head, bottom left. The green area.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that's an Earth colony. And the Triumvirate doesn't like that they exist. They're afraid of their technology. But at the same time, the people from Earth aren't really capable of dealing with the Triumvirate's magic. So they have a bit of a US versus Russia Cold War that exists. TK's father was a genetic experiment back on Earth when Earth was like all peaceful and like Gene Roddenberry Star Trek-esque. And these people didn't like that all too much. They wanted to figure out how to use their genetic splicing technology to fund like a soldier program. And they're going to use them to create strife and then use them as the cure for said strife. And it didn't work out too well. His father and his two uncles ended up breaking free of that whole experimentation thing. And then shortly, I want to say like a decade after that happens, the genetic splicing stuff ends up spreading as like a fad across the world. So people, started paying money to give themselves animal features like, cat's eyes or lizard scales, stuff like that.
Okay.
So
is that where beast folk come from?
There are two strains of beast folk. One is the kind from Earth, and one is the kind native to Lushanka. So, a bunch of bad shit happens. A god from the realm of the gods winds up on Earth, and he's using Earth as his little playground to try to develop stuff, cause some chaos, and see if he can bring that back to the realm of the gods. He ends up killing off about a third of Earth's population, and mutating another third into like angel-esque creatures, because he ended up being very infatuated with the lesser realms, like religiosity and stuff. So he wanted to, he wanted his first showing to be a big bang, big fancy thing. Like, oh, you guys once prayed to gods and these were your angelic creatures and now they're here to kill you. While before all that went down, Earth was already doing like spacefaring technology, and they were looking for new worlds to build colonies on.
So this is like our world, Earth.
Our
that you're
world,
talking
Earth,
about.
yeah.
Oh shit! Okay, I didn't know your worlds had roots in that. So this is all a sci-fi.
Yes, it is. It all started as sci-fi. Stargate, Star Ocean, Star Trek. So
okay.
They found Terra, and Terra was undergoing its cataclysm when the probe found it, and they found Lushanka, and the probe wasn't able to read much of the world. They just saw that, hey, this is a viable place to put a colony up. The probe wasn't able to look at the entire planet, but we're going to send people there, and they're going to start colonizing. And once they do their thing, and once we're ready to send more people, we're going to have a nice, like a nice seed bed to work off of. So we're not just building technology from the get-go as we send a mass amount of people there. And then the other one goes and finds Gaia, which I haven't done a lot of, but it ends up becoming a very dystopian Big Brother-esque civilization, at least where the main story is. But we don't need to talk about Gaia. They make it there. The first batch of people there are a lot of Central and South Americans. They end up becoming Midlanders and Yucatan. The rest of Earth, during the whole strife of the rapture, which is what they call it, Christian-like angels, they make it to Terra. They start doing their thing. TK, his mother came from a phased out version of Earth where mages hid off to with the help of Merlin. And his father was one of those first genetic experiments, a la Dark Angel. And so he grows up, Merlin? He does this thing. Yes, Merlin.
Love it.
It's a real world universe. I'm using real world people as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's Stargate. So his parents are essentially royalty because his mother and his aunts, they're hella powerful mages. They helped, protect people of Earth once they got out of the mage phase, and they did their thing. But in the Earth colony, metahumans are viewed as bad because of the whole angel uprising.
Okay.
And he's one of them. And he unlike his sisters, he's very visibly one of them. He has the whole anime ears and tail shit.
Okay. Inuyasha.
So, yeah. So his story is that, people are going around, paramilitary organization called the Hunters are going around just trying to take out dangerous metahumans. And because of who his father is and who his mother is, they're like, yeah, this guy, he's dangerous. We're gonna kill this kid. We're gonna gun this kid down in the streets.
Nice of him.
Yeah. He runs away. He makes it to that little peninsula. Like if you know what I'm saying when I say the turtle head, right?
Yeah, it looks like a little
On the
turtle.
Forbidden Lands.
Yeah,
the little green
south of him,
peninsula
right?
next to it. He makes it there. It's like a countryside. It's where they do all their farming. He makes some friends. They end up traveling out towards the Barrens, Sirshirma, all that stuff. He gets lost. He meets new people. Gets lost, meets new people. Ends up making his way back eventually, and kind of just lives his life. And then the Hunters pop up again, even though they were kind of destroyed while he was gone, but they've been rebuilding. And so his story is essentially just dealing with the fact that he's not human, and there are people who want to kill him for not being human.
Okay.
And then he eventually dies because the angels come back. His cousin is one of them. She kills him, then she goes and kills her father, who is like the hive mind of all the angels. And then a bunch of these angels, they survive the deal, and now you have a bunch of them living there in the Forbidden Lands. And they're also trying to adjust to the fact that they spent the last millennia, traveling through space as mindless killing machines. So that's one storyline. And eventually, because he doesn't die, well, he does die, but one of the gods decides, hey, there's something special in you because your DNA is fucked up. We want that up in the realm of the gods. So I'm saving you, and I'm hoping that you can help us settle things up here because a god made you, so maybe you can help us out. So he spends centuries up in the realm of the gods as 15-ish years pass. And eventually he gets brought back, but they ended up putting him back together wrong, if that makes any sense. He dies when he's 17-ish. He ended up making a baby with another girl. He's kind of this cool, somewhat stoic, calculating, laid back guy who doesn't care much for the conflict he has to go through, but he handles it the way he handles it, even though he is probably the weakest character amongst all the strong characters that are around. He's faster than a normal human. He's more agile. He can hear and smell things that normal people won't, but he's also he's very normal compared to everybody else. And they bring him back, and they end up putting him back together incorrectly. So his DNA is more fucked up. He's younger than he was when he died. His 2 children that he left behind are older than him. And he doesn't remember anything. So that's kind of the storyline that I'm working with him now. And his storyline now is kind of like a supernatural, abnormal detective. He goes and he studies potential crimes by either mages or metahumans. Kind of I've never read the Dresden Files, but I've watched it, and that was sort of my inspiration for that. So that's his storyline. And then one of his kids ends up becoming the champion of the goddess of nature, who's sort of taken up the goddess role in this world, Andraba.
Okay.
And she is tasked with going and killing her sister. the goddess's sister, Ariath. And that's a whole other storyline, which I haven't really worked with a lot.
Quite a lofty fucking task, though, hey.
Yeah, she's a wicked smart kid even when she was born, because her father's DNA is fucked up and just kind of allowed that to happen. Her mother is from the steppes. She is like a fire witch, a Mongolian fire witch.
Okay.
The god's power fills her with incredible rage. So when she's a child, she's just tweaking out after like a massacre of her friends happens because people from another planet show up and they're like, oh, hey, we see that you're here. We want to be friends with you fellow humans who are also, high tech with us. We can help you with those pesky magic people over there. Just give us all your stuff. Oh, they don't say that part out loud though.
Yeah.
And so she does her thing. She ends up, wandering off into somewhere near Sherma. The goddess accelerates her age so she can serve her as a champion. She spends like 2 years in a coliseum fighting other beastmen and monsters for the appeasement of a local baron. And then eventually she breaks free of that with the help of the former champion of the goddess. And she goes around, just honing her skills to one day find and kill another god. That's the second storyline that I've played with.
Colosseums in Ashurma?
Yes. It's in the more like wildy desert kind of area. It might actually be in the Luntavam region, now that I think about it. Because Luntavam is much more of an unruly place. So that's another storyline. And then there's one that I've been playing with.
I was going to ask, the Earth stuff that you've been talking about, is that still happening in the Forbidden Lands?
Yes. If you go to the if you somehow made it to the Forbidden Lands, you would have been in like a I don't know what to say. I don't know what to describe it to. It's not completely Star Trek, but it's there. It is. They have futuristic technology, but they can't use all of it because of treaties. So like they can't use any spacefaring stuff. They can't use they can't send aircrafts beyond a certain point, or else they'll be shot down by Luntavam magic stinger sites, I guess you could call them.
Sick.
So
is that like
it very much is magical or sci-fi?
Is it like a fucking Eureka where like it looks like a normal place and then you cross a threshold and all of a sudden it's just advanced?
No. It's not hidden. It's not hidden to be like we're secretly sci-fi. It is like futuristic stuff.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool. I did not know that about your world. That's a very strange world you've built.
There was something that I wanted to do that I thought of. Like, if I make this into a setting, right? I'm not going to do anything with the Forbidden Lands. I'm just going to say in every single book or in every single setting that don't ever go past this point in the Barrens, or you will be hunted down and killed by the strongest, most powerful assassins that the Triumvirate has to offer. And it'll just be like a hardline thing, right? And then eventually I would release like a book about the Forbidden Lands and the other Worlders. And it'll be written from the perspective of a Galatian wizard. And it'll have a series of sleeves in the book, so you can't like skip forward unless you open the sleeve. And like the first half of it will be like the wizard's like, so as per your request, I traveled out to the Forbidden Lands and I used all my might and magic to study these other Wolders, to gather whatever information we can. And I've interviewed plenty of men and women of the world who have encountered these people and survived before having been put down by Luntavam or Triumvirate. And then he'll like describe all the descriptions of like what people have told him, and it'll show like all these like horrid eldritch creatures. Like you'll see like this gnarly chitin plated soldier of some sort that has like a giant like glowing head with like an eyeball and like a some sort of appendage that leaks magic or something like that. And I'll just describe all these things in the most eldritch terror way possible.
Mhm.
And then the final like part of the first half of that book, before you have to peel the sleeves off to read the rest of it, will be like, and all of these stories, while true, are the truth is that it is far less interesting than I have imagined. And then you peel off the sleeve, and it'll show you all the same illustrations, but they're just people. They're people in like various like sci-fi suits of armor. This flying
Yeah.
monstrosity bug is just like a helicopter of some sort.
Mhm.
The giant metal demon that shoots powerful blasts out of a trunk is just a tank. And it'd just be like revealing to the world, or to the Galatian that is ordered this wizard to go do this study, is that, oh, they're just people with a greater technology that does not work on magic.
God. How much of that do you have written? Like, could you send, because wouldn't this be fascinating? Could you send me and Nyx with my character's ever will for exploration as a Galatian to collect knowledge to the Forbidden Lands? And could we just explore as you know, medieval druid and whatever, you know, warrior going into this place? Or is it like not really ready for that?
There's a decent amount. Yeah. I mean, most of my story has taken place over there in the Forbidden Land, so
It would be so funny if you did that without telling Nyx. Hopefully he doesn't listen to this episode. And then like you just take our character sheets and as best you can make Delta Green human versions of them as we like enter into this land. He's like, hey, use your new character sheet.
it'd be great.
That'd be so funny. So
Yeah.
why the Triumvirate? Why does the Triumvirate not want people into the Forbidden Lands? And they're so far away. How do they stop people?
So the Triumvirate feel like they are the leaders of Lushanka. When the humans from Old Terra sailed off into the sea to escape from the Cataclysm, and they landed on Lushanka, they were lost for a good time until eventually a prophet of some sort, the voice high upon the mountain. If you see that mountain there, it sits in that like gigantic lake. The voice high upon the mountain, you know, rallies them up and, you know, gets them into a uniform society, and from there they kind of just end up being like the singular human power in the world, because the rest of the world hasn't been explored all that much yet. But eventually people do leave Luntavam, or not Luntavam, the Triumvirate. As the rest of the world is developing, they are exploring and, you know, creating new lands and stuff. They continue to focus on Triumvirate lands, and they just become more and more powerful and sort of develop from what used to be like 500 AD to like 1400s. And they always saw themselves as like, we are the leaders of this world. All of you who live out beyond the woods, you belong to us. You're supposed to be ours. We're going to tax you. We're going to do all this stuff. You know, they splay their dick on the table constantly throughout the entire history of Lushanka. And then the only thing that really stood up to them at that point in time was the kingdom that disappeared and created the barons. And once that disappeared, it's like, yeah, oh yeah, we're the guys. We own all of you. And then the Primeros, they show up. They build up on the Forbidden Lands. A bunch of them spread out and discover the world and they create the Midlands. They get into trouble with the triumvirate and it's like, hey, we'll throw away our technology and we'll just live like this if you don't kill us. And like, all right, fine. That's how the Midlands came to be. And some people ended up going off into Yucatan and sort of devolving technologically.
Mm-hmm.
And then years, centuries later, the rest of the Earth colonists show up. And then the Luntavam see this and it's like, oh, more of these people with their outer world power are here. We fear that outer world power. So we need to make sure that they know that we're in charge.
Yeah, we're the boss.
So then, so the Luntavam, they spread out from where they are. They tear through the Meadowlands. They go through the Barrens. They try their best to...
Right?
Yeah, the Triumvirate.
You mean the Triumvirate?
Triumvirate. Yes, Triumvirate. They do their thing. They do their best to show off, like, hey, this is our magic. This is our power. We're going to stop you from existing. But then Earth is like, oh, well, these are our phasers and our bombs and our non-radioactively lingering nuclear missiles. We're going to fuck you up. We're sorry. We didn't know you were here. Can't we live in peace? Luntavam's like, no. So then the 3-day war took place. And then Luntavam's like, maybe. So then treaties came out. There's still like spaceships floating around out there, like hovering around the Pearly Moon, like that are full of people who are just not allowed to be thawed out and brought into the Earth's new society. And they're just ships that have to maintain orbit around the moon because it's like the only place that Luntavam can't use their magics to spy upon.
Interesting. Are they just such small numbers in the Forbidden Lands that, like, with the existence of magic and the power of, numbers, that the Forbidden Lands can't spread, or they just don't want to?
It's about 2 Californias worth of people.
It's a lot of fucking people to be advanced.
Yeah. They still brought all their technology. They every once in they will still smuggle their stuff down onto the planet. They got a lot down there before the Luntavam was able to show up and say, "Hey, no, we don't like that." So, so I mean, there's a decent amount of people. It's just that their technology can't deal with magic. Like,
right?
Their shields can't stop a scorching ray. Right? Their shields can stop a fireball, but a scorching ray, not so much. At the same,
gotcha.
At the same direction, breath thing, Luntavam's mage armor can't stop a bullet. Well, they can stop a bullet, but they can't stop a phaser.
Right.
So
okay.
It's
kind of like
technological versus magic, like deadlock.
Right. Okay. So modern Earth might have fared better because they could just have, Vietnam style helicopters just gunning wizards down.
Yes. And there's not a lot of gun production in the Forbidden Lands because they need their phasers to deal with the bugs that have made their way down from the Hive Lands through the Cursed Lands and into the Forbidden Lands, or the Earth Colony, Hope. So there are bugs that exist in those peninsulas that they have to deal with from time to time. It is a constant threat. The northern parts of the colony are considered like the poor and dangerous parts. They build large underground residential areas that are reinforced to deal with bugs that might bore through the earth.
Yeah.
So a lot of people live underground in northern areas. And despite, being that Star Trekian style of culture, that's where crime pops up from Earth humans as well. And then you also get the occasional immigrant from the old world, and they're more than happy to let them in because they're enlightened peoples.
Interesting. I didn't know this was so fucking sci-fi. That's cool, man. Is this a different Earth that these people come from then?
No, it's from Earth. Earth.
From
planet, the solar system.
From Earth, not from Terra.
Yeah, Terra is
Terra.
Terra. Terra is this planet. Earth is our planet. Ours.
Right.
Mine.
And these people come from Earth. Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
All right.
They suffer from a population crisis because a lot of men died on Earth, and they also suffer from cryo sickness easy. So that once they get unthawed, they got to be put back into thaw, and hopefully after a year they can be unthawed again and be cured. But they usually get put back on ice.
Gross.
So there's a lot of women in the Forbidden Lands, and they run everything.
Well, just say that, and that's how you get Trent over there. All right. Speed run through all of the places that I'm curious how much you have written about. First, just that question. You don't have to go into any deep lore. What's going on over here with Anatra? Do you have a lot written about that?
Anatra is the home of the last known grand dragon.
Ooh.
That was just his place to be. He disappeared sometime around when the kingdom from the Cursed Lands also disappeared. As from that, you just have a lot of Hyratians that live there. It's not too special. Another character from another storyline ends up chasing a fugitive and crash landing on Anatra. And then that fugitive being a space dragon. A dragon that is perfectly capable of existing in the vacuum of space.
Sick.
And she hunts him down. They end up there. They end up having to become friends for a decade or so. And then at the end of it, he's like, oh yeah, I'm leaving. Peace. And he leaves. Mm-hmm. And she can't leave because her ship's trashed.
And then Puff the Magic Dragon place.
Yeah, I think she ends up making it to the Fjordlands. And
that makes sense.
Not
closest
too long
landmass
ago in the lore.
I just had another thought before we move on to another place.
Yes.
What if you don't show us this map and then we long con Nyx where we play a proper Delta Green style thing? Don't say we're Delta Green and be like, hey, I want to do a Delta Green thing, but it's an offshoot thing. So like, it's actually my own setting and blah, blah, blah. So here's what you would need to know about how this place operates and its level of technology and whatnot. And then we just play in the Forbidden Lands as like investigators of some crime that happened in the Forbidden Lands, genuinely just like a Delta Green style thing. And then way, way, way later in our lives, you take some of our characters from the Triumvirate or from the Galatian Waste or whatever and send them to the Forbidden Lands. And when we get there, it's all familiar to Nyx. Long con, baby.
That would be hilarious.
This is what happens when you don't show up to a Take the Damage episode. You get long conned.
You get attacked by an entire village.
Love it. All right. To the west. Lule.
All right. To where? Oh, Lule.
West. Lule.
West. That is some of the oldest humans who left the Triumvirate lands ended up, reaching the coast and like, hey, what's further out beyond this water? So they just traveled out there and they became a sort of Polynesian society.
Sick. And all the islands? Same deal?
Same deal. There's smaller populations there, but the big one is where the most of them live. And they have a lot of like
Sick.
tribal mysticisms, gods. The god that lives in the volcano, which is that little mountain in the center of Lule.
Sick. All right. Southeast. The Papungi Archipelago.
One of the groups that traveled from Old Terra once they landed on the Triumvirate lands, and once the Triumvirate started being like, yeah, we are, you know, the big swinging dicks of this land, and this is how we're gonna do things, blah 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 blah. Most of those people who were like, yeah, we're the new people here. They were a lot of the Western church survivors, the people who believed in the gods of the light and stuff from Old Terra.
Okay.
Some of them, a good deal of them, were from the lands of Kiden and Foro, which are the Asian and Middle Eastern populations of Old Terra. The one group of the Asians, the ones who were like the big time sailors in Old Terra, who did a lot of naval trading, naval combat, naval raiding, and stuff like that. They're like, you know what? Yeah, we don't like that idea. We're gonna go sail off in that direction. Good luck with your life. And they end up finding the Papungi Archipelago, and they end up becoming Filipinos with Australian accents. Rather large people as well.
Of course they do. Love it. Both places, Lule and the Archipelago. Do you have stories in those places already, or are they just you have an understanding of them?
I have an understanding of them. There is a character that comes from Lule, but she is like a side character.
Okay.
Papungi, there is a character that comes from Papungi. She was in the Fang and Claw campaign with my online table.
Okay.
I haven't done much with them.
Lost Lands to the east.
The Lost Lands were the first region that the people from Old Terra landed, and it ended up being just a inhospitable, savage place because a lot of Mara's influence, her darkness, her evil will, whatever you would call it, kind of took hold there. That entire region is created of what is called, I call it Voidstone, behind the screen. I forget the name for it. It's something of Mara. It is a purplish, bluish, gray stone that has the power to negate both magic and the powers of gods. And so a lot of that lives there. And when it gets dug up, when you mine it, when any sort of ecological disaster that might kick up dust happens and people breathe that in or creatures breathe that in, it'll do things to them. So there's a lot of nasty creatures that live there. And so the people who landed there, like, nope, set sail. We're going somewhere else. And they ended up landing on that little like lip where you see those mountains popping out of the water.
Oh, okay. I see what you're talking about. That was going to be my next question is in the middle of this lake to the right of to the east of the Triumvirate, there's a mountain in the middle of the water. And I always like to look at maps and see some random obscure geology and be like, what's going on there?
Yeah, so that mountain is not a natural mountain at all. It is a piece of the moon of Mara. It is just
fucking
one
sick.
gigantic
I'm so glad I asked.
that landed right there. It obliterated the ground and it created that lake, and it's just a gigantic shard from the moon. It's also where it is believed that the voice up high on the mountains lives. Which he does.
Which he does.
Yeah. And
Okay.
it's a grand holy site to the triumvirate.
Okay. Hivelands.
Bugs.
Love it. Say
So
no more. Let's glass it.
so in Old Terra, there are a few species of bugs that are kind of important. One of them are the Junger. They have the supernatural ability to just adapt to shit. So like if you cast a fire spell on one of them, they'll take the damage. Name drop. But then they'll become resistant to it increasingly. So the more fire damage you do to them, they'll just rapidly evolve to become resistant to fire damage.
Ooh.
They also evolve super quickly depending on their experiences. So you put some Junger in a swamp and say they're not very fit to live in a swamp. Once they lay their eggs and breed, their offspring will be very capable of dealing with that swamp, and they might not even resemble their parents.
Mm.
And then you also have the Nicandra, which are a eldritch terror race of creatures in Old Terra. They devour things because that is their goal is to just devour humans, all humans. And they also have the ability to just rapidly evolve. And then you have the bug. Then you have the species of bug that lived in the Varfell Mountains that have long been eradicated, say for like a few hundred now. And one of my players found a vial of bug juice and decided to stick it into a person.
Gross.
And created a new bug race. This actually happened twice because his master did the same thing with that same vial of bug juice. So I guess there's 4 species then. Oh, and then there's the 5th. The nameless Greythorn in her like late 30s, mid 40s as an amnesiac ends up in a cave full of bugs, and one of them nabs her and plants eggs in her gut. And then one of those eggs ends up like being bathed in her light magic that she just radiates, and it became sentient to her in a way. And so she survives that ordeal, and that bug ends up looking to her like, oh, this is my mother. I'm going to do everything I can to protect my mother. Mm-hmm. And so like a whole new bug species comes out of that. And so a mix of those bug species end up hitching a ride with the people fleeing from Old Terra. And then they make their way across the land. They split up in various directions, and one of them lands on the Hivelands and just starts making bugs. And then sometime around TK's storyline, one of his friends ends up losing so much blood that they need a transfusion. They don't have anything, but they have this kooky, whacked out doctor who's a god who decided to abandon godhood and just live on Terra and just do their science thing. Filled them full of bug blood because it's just compatible with humans. And eventually it mutates her, and she ends up becoming like a hive queen in the Hivelands.
Oh.
Like
gross, I don't like that.
If you ever played StarCraft, like kind of like Sarah Kerrigan.
I'd have to look it up. I'm imagining like if you ever played Gears of War, the Queen.
I've only played the first one, sadly.
I'm pretty sure she was in it. I'm pretty sure she narrates the intro.
I don't
know if she ever made an appearance.
I think her main appearance is in 2 and 3, right?
Could be. You could be right. I don't fucking remember.
Yeah. So there's the Hivelands, and then there's like multiple bug factions, and they fight with each other, and sometimes they spread out to the Cursed Lands, and they try to eat people.
Yeah, not ideal. Well, there's like 20 other locations on the map. I more wanted to ask about the obscure ones. So we will not go into that level of detail. I will say I've really enjoyed this, other than the fact that my ping is going out of control. Like, in terms of like, I wish we did this before. I think maybe it'd be boring for people. I don't know. We'll see how well this episode does, but either before the session 0 or as part of the session 0 when we're going to a very well-established world. I feel like this is like, it would help me write myself into the world. You know what I mean? When making a character.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be a lot for a mini campaign, to be fair.
Yeah, it sounds more like a proper campaign.
Yeah, but I mean, I imagine you're going to want us to play within, when you write things within this world, at least upon occasion in system exploration or in U1 plays or whatever. So it'd be good to know all of these things and to understand your world more, not just from a level of like exploring it, but also just, if we're people that live in it, you don't have to explore your backyard.
Yeah, I like for Old Terra, I have a couple mini Bibles that people could read and be like, oh yeah, I understand this place. I understand this place quite well. I don't have that for Lashonka yet. And that would really help if
fair enough.
I were to play here again.
The documents I usually give people is like a depending on how old the place is, but like one of my worlds is only like 3,000 years old. It's like 3,150 years old would be the modern day of the discovery of the land. I have canonized in the back of my head that the orcs have been there for much longer, as well as other races that weren't discovered until way later. But the history begins with, year 0 AD after discovery by the dwarves. The name of the land is established by the dwarves. And so my Bible is just literally like 3 sentences for every 50 years of the history. Something like that. So it's not that long. I think it's only like a 6-page Google Doc. Something like that. Because it's just a couple of sentences from each year.
Yeah, to me, that's a rookie number.
Oh, it's tiny, but it's because I know nobody wants to read shit. That's why I do it. I do it like that because I like my docs are way longer than that for my own personal documents, but this gives my player. So I do that, and then I give them like 2 or 3 paragraphs about each region of the map. Geography, culture, history.
Oh yeah,
blah,
I
blah,
have
blah.
one of those too. Like a little outline for each place.
Yeah, so that's like, hey, here's like a 12-page document. You can read through it if you want to, and it'll help you get established within the world. Because nobody's going to read a book.
Yeah. Well, some people will.
Unfortunately.
Morgan will read it.
Is that one of your players?
Yeah. Every once in a while, he asks me for a new lore doc.
I love it. I'd give it to him. But this is great, though. Just like almost as if we came together for a session to sit down, just fucking... Yeah, I mean, mostly it was me listening and you talking, but I really enjoyed it.
You can make a character that fits into the world now properly, even though you kind of already did.
Yeah, but mostly by accident, right?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know those things. You told me a little bit about... Yeah, you told me... I knew I was making a druid, and then you told me magic comes from this place, so that kind of isolated me to that place, and then you told me a couple of things about the Galatian Waste, and I was like, okay, now I have an idea. And then I outright asked you what would be a good reason for a druid to leave the Galatian Waste, and me and you kind of worked back and forth on that, as I recall. So, I mean, it's not hard to write a character that fits a world. I don't think, as long as you work with.
You just
your
need
DM.
a little information.
But this is great. This was loads of information. Like, I actually feel like, to a degree, I understand your world, which is cool. And by proxy, so does our audience now.
Oh yeah, I actually you asked me once if the Luntavam and the Eternal Luntavam had any relation.
Yeah.
Once the once the kingdom that disappeared and created the barons disappeared, the Eternal Luntavam, before they were the Eternal Luntavam, they just kind of organized the people that ended up surviving the disappearance. So the Luntavam coalition kind of just stuck onto that name, though they have no allegiance to the actual cult itself.
Mm. Oh, so the coalition came after the cult.
Yes.
Interesting. That's cool. Yeah, man. I feel like if we ever release a settings book, we should do this. Like after the book is written, so that we're kind of speaking on primarily what is canon and what is in our book. But like this is a great way to do it, I think.
Oh yeah.
Maybe with better internet, but you know. All right, dude. Anything else you want to talk about your world?
No. I mean, unless you have any more other questions, but I'm not sure what else we could talk about.
I mean, probably I have like another 6 hours worth of questions, but I think we got to a good place.
I know that there is a mini campaign I want to do in the Midlands in Rohodeo, but I need to obtain a vocabulary of Spanish that I don't have for a particular character.
Yeah.
And you guys cannot at all know the Spanish language for that particular game.
Sure. That's
so
funny.
I could actually just speak Spanish at you guys.
I mean, Nyx would understand, pretty sure.
I don't think you will.
Are you learning a particular version of Spanish?
No, just plain old Mexican Spanish.
Well,
I'd have to learn it. I'm not actually learning it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I just do that shit through descriptors. German,
but that ain't happening either.
I would love to. Yeah, I would love to. I need to do my homework before my Thursday campaign because I've come to the realization that I want my lizard folk to, because I always put them in like swamps, and then in the world that I'm currently in, they're not like as some fantasy worlds depict them as like just monsters, and then some fantasies depict them as like undeveloped tribesmen. And then in my world, they have origins in that kind of thing, but they came to this nation and then they built, there aren't swamps. So they came to the nation into elven woodlands, and there aren't swamps, but as part of retaining their own culture, they had developed very swampland style architecture of like stilted towns. You know what I mean? And I took my party to one of these, jokingly we called it like Little Lizard Town or something like that, because it's like a little Tokyo within an elven city. There's like a small, pocket that is lizard folk, but they're lizard folk that have otherwise, to a degree, assimilated to elven society. But they have their town of this like little stilted town. I forget the name of it. But then like everything I was describing, one of my players is from like swamp towns in like Florida, and everything I was describing, they were like, this is just Florida, this is just Florida, this is just Florida. And they were talking about like swamplands and whatnot, and I was like, man, I wish I could do a Cajun accent. I know that's like Louisiana, I think, but still swamplands. If I could do a Cajun accent and all of my lizard folk that were immersed into society had like a Cajun accent, that'd be so fucking sick.
Just gotta bust out the foghorn leghorn. That's one of my players tried doing that. It was hilarious.
Yeah. I can't do that. So pass.
You gotta cast a fireball, boy. Don't go around waving your fingers and doing nothing. You gotta cast a spell. You gotta stuff like that.
I had a player that
I gotta prepare for
decided that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is I have to prepare for it. I have a player that decided that Thieves' Cant is just Boomhauer voice. I love it. All right,
you gotta go down and Pickpocket that
Dingo
pickpocket that man over there.
fireball them dingo elves. All right. Well, I had very much fun exploring your world. It's kind of what I wanted out of this, was to geek out over it. I really wanted to geek out over my world as well, but like I said before we started recording, I don't think that works if you haven't been there.
Haven't played.
You know
it.
what I mean? So
yeah.
So like there needs to be some hook of why you give a shit about this world. So I'll have to take you to my world someday before we do one of those for Take the Damage. But for now, that was an awesome. For me, that was awesome. I don't know if our audience is going to give a fuck at all. But in case they do and anybody's still listening, thank you for listening to the Take the Damage podcast as we explore one of Grey's world. And we will catch you next time on Take the Damage or System Exploration. I don't know what we're going to do next, but we will see you there. Links in the description. And like, subscribe, hit bells. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.